This week in careers, swimming in the Shark Tank, and a member of the Career Advisory Board has flown in to answer all your questions. Welcome to This Week in Careers, where we're trying to save America one job at a time. I'm your host, Lisa Johnson-Mandel, author of Career Comeback, Repackage Yourself to Get the Job You Want, and last time I checked, still news editor at AOL Jobs. The good doctor is in today to cure your career ills. But first, we're going to start right off with the Week Career Move of the Week. Okay, today we're giving the award to an employer rather than an employee, and it goes to Yelp.com. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't think it's a great idea to install a free-flowing beer tap in a workplace. Now, I know it was big in the 60s, and I know it got the Mad Men ahead, but these days, I'm not sure if an employee incentive that allows people to imbibe something that might sort of take away from their ability to do their job, not sure it's such a good idea. Now, to get this free beer, you do have to show your company badge to an iPad app, and then it will put your name on a leaderboard, and whoever drinks the most beer, is not such a good place to have your name at the top of that list. But still, oh my gosh, I think this is just a powder keg waiting to explode. I mean, the sexual harassment that happens when inhibitions are down, the mistakes that could be made. Like I said, call me old-fashioned, but I don't think it's the ideal employee incentive. Now, Google. They have good employee incentives, and that moves us right along into the Job of the Week. Job of the Week is at Google. They have just been voted by young professionals to be the most attractive employer. I think that makes a lot of sense. That does not surprise me that they're number one. What does surprise me, however, are the other companies on the top 10 list. 4 of them are government agencies. The rest of them are pretty much high-tech. So let me read it to you, this list. It's so fascinating. Number 1, of course, is Google. Number 2 is Apple. Number 3 is Disney. Number 4, U.S. State Department. Number 5, Amazon. Number 6, the FBI. Number 7, Microsoft. Number 8, the CIA. Number 9, NASA. And number 10, Teach America. I think that's pretty cool. I like number 10. Hey, speaking of teaching America, you can learn a few things by following my tip of the week. The tip of the week is watch Shark Tank. Okay, it's my favorite reality show on ABC Friday nights at 8. The new season is just starting, and it's better than it was even last season, okay? I got an opportunity to do a set visit there. I went in, I interviewed all the sharks, and saw that it is real. The competition among those guys to get the best deals, they really do go for blood. It's real money. That is, well, of course, the piles of money sitting around on their desks is not real, but they really do invest their own money. Now, this season, they've added something extra to it. Mark Cuban is there for some of the episodes, and Jeff Foxworthy, who is not only a comedian, but also a great investor. Who knew? And they're kind of spicing it up. When I was there, Mark Cuban was handing out money and investments like they were Halloween candy. And he offered a guy $4 million to control his business. I was stunned. The other sharks were a little bit miffed at him too, because he keeps on raising the prices and making it harder for them to get the best deals. But it's all good, clean fun, and one of the best shows on TV right now if you're interested in business or in the American economy. In case you haven't seen it, we have a little clip for you that'll kind of explain the show to you.
Hello Sharks, my name is Les Cookson. My product is the car Sick Bib. Now, just imagine for a minute that you're driving down the street with your beautiful little child here strapped into the car seat. Then, out of nowhere...
Oh, gosh. Oh, no.
You had to put the corn in it, didn't you, Les?
This is why I created the car Sick Bib. Here's how it works. You attach it like a regular bib.
It's a bib.
It's a feed bag, too.
Then, when it happens...
And if the kid gets hungry later?
Stick a straw in it.
Then you find a safe place to pull over. You remove the car sick bib. And the bottom flips up, zip shut, and you throw it all away.
Can I see one of those?
Yeah.
Just give me one. I may need it.
What's the cost to make one?
19 cents.
Including the pad at the bottom?
Now I know why the kid is throwing up.
Well, here's the deal, is that I have done everything myself. I built the prototype myself, so I've been using my, ingenuity.
The only thing I think is the worse than vomiting is riding around with a bag of vomit on your neck.
Okay, with a little better, more serious advice today is our guest, Dr. Sanja Licina, who has flown in all the way from Chicago to be with us today. She's on the Career Advisory Board presented by DeVry University. Sanja, welcome. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And we're pleased that you would fly all the way in from Chicago.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
You're
Sunny
liking the weather, huh?
California.
Yeah. Definitely. Now, okay, tell us a little bit about the Career Advisory Board. What exactly is it, and what is your purpose? I mean, it's basically to help people be happy in their careers, right?
Absolutely. So the Career Advisory Board was established by DeVry University, and our purpose is to provide job seekers with actionable advice and tools and resources to be able to advance their careers. It's a group of leading career experts and authors that come both from academia as well as business settings.
So you come, which side do you come from?
I come from the business side, but I've also had experience in academia, so I'm a little bit of both.
Okay, yeah, because you are a PhD. So, okay, so tell us about your background and what you particularly bring to the Career Advisory Board.
Absolutely. So I'm a director of talent intelligence at careerbuilder.com, and in my role there for years, I've been able to have conversations with employers to really understand what kind of talent are they looking for, who is in demand today, how does that compare to what organizations were looking for in the past, and we also frequently have conversations with job seekers to understand what it is they're looking for in an opportunity, where they're looking for jobs, to be able to make a good connection between the two. So the reason why I joined the Career Advisory Board is because in my professional role at Career Builder, I spent a lot of time consulting with organizations, helping them prove what their value is to the job seeker and get the best talent. And here in the Career Advisory Board, I have an opportunity to take that breadth of knowledge and see from my research at Career Builder and be able to help give job seekers actionable advice on what to do when they're looking for in a career and how to make themselves more appealing to an employer.
Great. So you come from both the perspective of the employer and the employee, right?
Yes.
That's very cool and very helpful. So, how many people are on the Career Advisory Board? Who else? What other types of people are on there?
Yeah, so we have executives from organizations such as Microsoft, Cisco, IBM. We have
the big guys.
The big organizations. We have authors and career experts such as Alexander Levitt, who's done a lot of consulting with organizations, Erica Oren, Jason Sadin, and also Dr. Cloud Tulland, who is from DeVry University.
Oh, very cool. So how do people find the Career Advisory Board? How do they get access to your advice, that kind of thing?
We have a lot of advice on DeVry.edu under Newsroom, and we're looking for a lot of different ways to be able to connect with job seekers. The board was established late in 2010, so we just published our first paper on millennials with a lot of actionable advice, and there'll be a lot more coming out for the group throughout the year.
Excellent. Excellent. This is so great. So DeVry University is presenting the career. That's the terminology that I saw. So basically sponsoring, is it?
It's not. They brought this independent group of experts together for the sole purpose of really helping job seekers and helping people advance in their careers.
Okay. And DeVry University, of course, is the education entity that helps people specifically train for work-related opportunities, right?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. That's a nice thing that they're doing,
Yeah,
putting you guys out there to people.
It's wonderful. It's a really great cause.
Now, you've got your PhD. I
do.
always like to talk to people about their own career paths.
Yeah.
You know, you're when you say, you're going to have a PhD on the show today, you think of someone considerably older and everything. Tell us about your career path to get to where you did today.
Yeah, I would love to. So one of the things that we talked about in our research studies too is importance of education in looking for what you want to do in your career. And one of our advice for millennials is think about what meaningful work is to you. What does that mean and how do you get there? And so for me, I really wanted to give back. I really wanted to work with the organizations, work with people in the workforce, and help them be happier at work. We spend so much time in the workplace, and so how do you connect the two? How do you get people really, really excited to go to work every day?
Don't we spend like about a third of our time, of our lives at work?
Yeah, it's a substantial chunk. I think it's between sleeping and working. You get very few hours in between, so it's so important to do something that you love. And so in my personal career discovery, I looked and I said, this is what I really want to do. And I looked at what kind of credentials I would need to be really put myself in a position to be able to make a difference. And what I saw is that really getting a PhD was something that would allow me to have an opportunity in a position that I could make an impact faster.
Wow, that's great. So what schools did you go to, and what did you major in, all that?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Michigan for my undergraduate degree, and I majored both in psychology and communications, and for my PhD, I went to DePaul University in Chicago.
Wow. So, oh my gosh. I guess last week we went to DePaul too.
Oh, it's a small
Some
world.
of our producers and editors went to DePaul. I mean, this is...
I'm seeing a connection.
Yes, this is a very small world. That's interesting. So are you from the Midwest originally?
I lived there for a big part of my life. I was actually born and raised in former Yugoslavia, and I lived there for about 12 years.
Okay, yeah. This explains your interesting name.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's so interesting. So you're what? Bilingual, trilingual, quadrilingual?
Bilingual, proficiently, speak a little bit of French, but I don't think the French people would like it if I said I was fluent, because I'm not.
Yeah, you don't want to get in trouble with the French.
No.
That's easy to do. Excellent. Okay. So you brought up a little while ago, you just did your first study, and it's on the millennials.
It is.
So I want to hear some interesting information. Millennials are so important to everybody in the workplace right now because most of us, if we're not millennials, we have a son or daughter who is a millennial, or perhaps we're working with millennials. And those who are not millennials, the Gen X and the baby boomers, sometimes we scratch our heads and go, okay, I'm not relating to these guys as well as I should. How can I relate better? So information on millennials is super, super important.
Absolutely.
For everyone. So tell us some of the things that you found out.
Yeah, and so that's one of the reasons why we decided to do our first study on millennials, is because it is such a generation that's getting so much publicity and press right now, and unfortunately not all of it is positive. And what we've seen in a lot of studies before is that there's been written a lot about how millennials really want high pay, and that's of the utmost importance, how they're looking to advance very quickly. And what we found in our study is that 1/3 of millennials said that they're looking for meaningful work. And that was the first and foremost important thing. And that was so enlightening to us. And meaningful work means doing something that you enjoy, giving back to the organization, feeling like what you're doing is important. And it's important for organizations to know that, because they did get somewhat of a bad reputation over the past few years. And we're seeing that the recession might have changed that and made a shift in their mindset for what they're looking for.
Yeah, that is interesting, because for my generation, main incentive, money. Offer them more money, they'll be happy, and we will jump through all sorts of hoops in order to make more money. But not so important to the millennials.
It's not as important. I think pay and advancement opportunities will be important across age groups, because we need that to survive, and people have families that they need to support. But what we are seeing is that this generation is looking to do something more. They're looking to not only bring home a paycheck, but really make a difference.
Wow, that's very interesting. So for people in that are a little older, I mean, right now it's so competitive in some fields to hire. You know, I mean, like people in high-tech fields, programmers, coders, that kind of stuff. Everybody's really just trying really hard to compete and to hire the best people. So what would you suggest to employers? What are the best incentives to get the best millennials?
One of the best incentives is to really understand what it is the millennials are looking for. And it's not always a blanket statement, it's having that one-on-one conversation. We know from our study that meaningful work is important. So in an interview process, in a job advertisement process, it's important for them to talk about what is it that I'm offering? What is my employment value proposition? When this person comes and works for me, why would they choose my organization versus somebody else? And those things mean different things to different people a lot of times. So depending on what field they're in, if they're in high-tech fields, it's important to go out there and talk to individuals who are looking for high-tech positions and say, what is most important to you? What kind of work are you looking to do? So it's really understanding the individual groups of people that you're looking to attract.
So what, can we define meaningful a little more, a little better? What's meaningful to them?
And I think that's what's a little difficult with meaningful, because it does mean different things to different people. What we've seen is that individuals are thinking more long term. So where before we thought, what is my next paycheck going to be and what is my life going to look like today? We're now seeing millennials thinking more long term. So what do I want out of my career? How am I going to make a difference? How am I going to come into an organization and make an impact? And it's very different from industry to industry, what they might define as meaningful.
Way back at the turn of the century, back in the year 2000 and late 90s, people were in the dot-com boom. People were willing to work 24/7. They were willing to practically live at work. They were willing to put in an amazing amount of hours. Are you finding now that people aren't willing to do that so much? That quality of life maybe is more important, and recreation and things like that?
Yeah, we're certainly seeing that people are striving for the balance. So they're not right off the bat settling and saying, I am willing to sacrifice my entire life for my career. We're seeing that strive. We're also seeing that in certain situations, and maybe in the onset of the career, they're willing to put in more time, but they're not willing to give up for that ideal as easily.
Interesting, interesting. Because nowadays too, since productivity has been increasing, we did that during the recession. People are finding, people are being laid off, so the ones that remain have to work harder and more hours and take on more responsibility to make up for the people that aren't there. Do you know, have you seen any kind of a trend where that's easing off a little bit? Because I know a lot of workers right now that are just going crazy with the amount of work they have to do.
Yeah, and we saw that happen a lot during the recession, is that organizations, a lot of them had to lay off workers, and those individuals who stayed in their positions felt very fortunate that they still had a job and were willing to work overtime because they felt like there were the select few and the top performers. But as the recession went on and people had to do that more long term, they started sensing more burnout and more dissatisfaction with their roles. And so what we're seeing today that's very positive news for people looking for a job is that so far 2011 is looking a lot better than 2010. There were about 1.3 million jobs added since February of 2010. We're seeing jobs being added across different industries. So we know IT and healthcare still fared fairly well during the recession, but now we're seeing more jobs being added in sales, more jobs being added in customer care, and really across the board. And specifically for our millennials that we studied in the first research piece on careerbuilder.com alone, we saw a 50% increase in jobs year over year on our site.
Really?
So it's very, very encouraging. I'm not saying we're completely out of the woods yet, but at least the situation is looking more positive.
That is hugely encouraging.
It is.
I'm glad to know that. So, which industries are you finding on Career Builder that are booming? That there might be more opportunity for anybody.
It is. It really is a lot across the board. Of course, IT and healthcare are still very, very strong, and those are some that I expect would remain strong for a while because there's just such a high need, and with technology advancements going so quickly, with the pending retiring of a lot of baby boomers, we can see how IT and healthcare have that long-term potential to stay in demand. We're seeing a lot of revenue-generating positions being more important, such as sales, such as marketing positions. So those are ones that we're really seeing in higher demand.
Interesting, sales and marketing. So what kind of preparation, if somebody wanted to go into sales and marketing? I mean, it's a little late to go into high tech if you've already graduated, and of course you can go back to school and learn some of those things. I'm sure DeVry has some good programs for that. But for those who were in sales and marketing and maybe lost their jobs, but now there's more opportunity and they're ready to get back in, can you talk about some of the career skills that are really valuable? these days?
Absolutely, and it's having marketing and sales skills prior to the recession and after the recession. Not that much of the world has changed, so those are still applicable. I think a lot of individuals who lost jobs and are getting back into the job market now or have been trying, the biggest advice for them is to stay optimistic and to present yourself, to be confident about the skills that you have, not feel that if you haven't been on the market or if you haven't been working for a year or two that you're completely out of date. It's talking about the experience that you had over time, really emphasizing that in interviews. The biggest threat, I think, to these individuals could be just that they feel it's been so difficult and they're losing hope.
You know, that's a really good point that you bring up, because I see so many people, a lot of people send me their cover letters and say, Lisa, what do you think of this? And, you know, they know that they're supposed to address all the needs on the ad. You know, Career Builder puts an ad up there and you want to say you're a, you know, polished, you know, whatever, all, you know, you want to say that you have all those. So many people start out with, while I'm not proficient in this, this, and that, I think you'll find that my proficiency in these other skills will make up for that. And I'm saying, why are you starting out with what you're not proficient at? That's just so wrong. You put your strengths at the top and put them in their face, and they'll find out in the interview process if you're not particularly proficient. But don't give them an excuse not to look at you in the very first paragraph, in your first contact.
Absolutely, and that's why that confidence is so important. I think people are so focused on the deficiencies and just feeling like they're not the right fit, but they have so many great qualifications, and that's why you're exactly right. Saying that up front, customizing your letter to the employer that's looking for you is also so important. Employers can smell a generic cover letter from a mile away.
That's so true. And it's really important to do your research on the company that you're applying for. And I've noticed on Career Builder, I'm very familiar with Career Builder because we have a thing with AOL, so we're back and forth all the time. And I noticed that you can not only apply for a job at that company, but you can click on the company name and you have a lot of background and research and a link to the company website and everything, so that people can find out more about the company themselves when they're doing it. And I encourage everybody to do their homework on that. And also, and tell me what you think of this, I also encourage people that if you can apply in person, do all your homework online, and yes, send in a resume, but if you can go down there and hand deliver a resume, if it's in your area, do that as well. This is kind of a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I think that in-person interaction is really important. That's why networking is so important. Putting the face to a name, having a connection. We always encourage job seekers to try many different ways to get to a job, and that personal connection is very important. And that's why, for the things that we've been talking about, that's what the goal of the Career Advisory Board is there's some key elements that job seekers should know and that'll help them get ahead. But then information is not always readily available to everybody. So it's our mission, it's our goal to get in front of people and make recommendations like that. Go down to the employer, network, make sure that you're talking with people, whether it's friends, whether it's networking events. You almost can't do enough of it.
Excellent. Okay, so it's not enough just to sit at home and online and apply that way. You got to get out there.
It's not. There are a lot of people out there, so you need to figure out how to differentiate yourself. You need to really make connections. And if somebody can see really good credentials on a resume, but also know that they've met this person and that they had a positive experience with them, it's so important. It
really is. What about social networking? I know that workers, some older baby boomers are a little uncomfortable with social networking. Facebook, not so much. People kind of get into Facebook, but LinkedIn, Twitter, those kinds of things, they're a little bit hesitant to go there. Is it absolutely necessary to do that?
I think networking is important. I don't think that digital networking or in-person networking that the person has to do all of it. The more places you are, the better it is. I think like with anything else, trying something out and seeing that it's not that scary is good. But what we're seeing more so than that apprehension, if they're not that excited about doing online networking, make sure you're talking with friends, make sure you're talking with coworkers, make sure that you're attending industry events, because you're still doing the networking. What we've seen on the opposite end is that people will use social networking, but they'll use it as a checkbox. And they say, I have this many connections or I have this many friends, so I'm networking, but they're really not establishing relationships, they're not asking the questions. So I would almost say that that's more important. It's not the medium you're using, but how you're using it, what kind of relationships you're building.
Interesting, really interesting. And then, of course, your persona online. Do you find that employers or potential employers, are they Googling people all the time now?
Absolutely. And that's something that's really important for people to realize too, is that the professional and the personal life, the lines are blurring very quickly. And a lot of times now, because so much information about us is online, employers do go in Google, and employers do look at Facebook profiles just to see what's out there. How professional is this individual? What else can I learn about them beyond the interview process? And so to know that the information you have about yourself online is accessible by all these different individuals is really important. So if you're going to be showing pictures of yourself at a party or engaging in some behaviors you might not want your potential boss to know that they might be able to access it if it's online.
That's kind of scary. The way I like to look at it, though, some people think, oh, it's such an invasion of privacy. I can't hide anything these days. But the way I like to look at it, just to play a little mindset on myself, is they're looking at your Facebook page and they're Googling you to find out what you like and to find out what's going to attract you and how they can accommodate you and to find something in common.
Yeah.
I mean, interviewers are on the spot too, and this is something that people forget. Sometimes the interviewer is just as nervous as the interviewee, and they want to find some sort of common ground that they can talk to you about as well. So that's, it's something to remember. It's not like it's this huge board of scary people that can, make or break you with the, one word that you say. It goes both ways.
Absolutely.
Are you finding, what is the attitude of employers these days? Are they really, really strict? I mean, are there any deal breakers that are just, across the board going to put you out of consideration? Or
I don't think there are any deal breakers across the board. I think it is a lot of that personal connection, and I agree with you. An employment situation is a two-way street, and a person who's interviewing for a job, the manager wants for the person to like the manager as much as the manager likes the employee. So it does go a little bit both ways. I think what's really important is to be authentic in the job interview, because you will be spending a lot of time with this individual, so you don't want to put on a fake persona. Because if you make a really, really terrific impression in the interview, but it's not who you really are, it's not what you really want, you will not be happy in your job.
So you mean
long-term.
that old, that advice that we've heard a million times of just be yourself?
It's important.
It
is.
Works, really?
It works.
I love it. Well, that's good to know, because we all do like to put our best foot forward, and sometimes we think our best foot forward is something that we're really not.
Yeah, if it's the best foot forward and it's you, that's great. If it's somebody else's best foot forward and it's not really you, that's where you can get hurt.
Something that I found, however, and especially when I interview millennials for positions, I've found that sometimes they're putting a little too much of themselves forward. The disclosure about things that I don't care about and I don't want to know. Your private life, what you did the night before, that kind of stuff. I don't want to know about that. Do you have, in any of your research, have you found that millennials are more inclined to do that or to share a little, overshare?
Well, it's interesting in how they find work important, they find their personal life important, and they're looking for that balance of both. So they're looking at the workplace as a place where they'll be able to be themselves and they'll be able to bring a lot of their personality. So they're excited to talk about that. They're excited to talk to their managers about who they are, so they can have the manager see the holistic picture. I think managers are not as used to that because other generations didn't do it as much. So it's tough to say, oh, okay, well, I'm getting to know you. Maybe I want to know a little bit more about you professionally, but I think that can also be very much a positive, because it tells you a lot about what kind of attitude somebody will bring in. If they're talking about, I'm part of the basketball team and I love being a part of the team and this is what I did, you might think that it's not really related to work. But when you think about it, it will tell you they're going to be a really, really terrific team player.
And energetic. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And
okay.
So I would encourage employers to think about it that way. Think about it as an opportunity to really get to know their potential applicants and their potential employees on a whole new level.
I bring this up because the other day, AOL is going through this whole thing of hiring some freelancers full-time, and it's huge deal. And the other day we had a big conference call talking about the opportunities available. And there must have been 200 people on this conference call, and you get people asking questions like, well, now, I have to go pick up my kid from school at 3 o'clock, so I want to know, do I have to be there? And then I have to get him off to school in the morning, so will I have to be there, you know, at my desk from 8 to 5? Because I just can't do that. And then if I'm going to have to get a babysitter, then you're going to have to pay me more. And I'm thinking, why are you people talking about this? Everybody doesn't care, and especially the employers don't care. This is not the time, this is not the place. But I'm glad to hear that employers are feeling a little more sympathetic towards that and realizing that they can, what they're getting, that they can get some useful information out of these kinds of personal disclosures.
Absolutely.
So, Sanja, thank you so much for being here today. I could talk to you for 3 more hours. It's so interesting to have you. You've given us some really good advice, both for employers and for job seekers. So, everyone, you can watch this over and over and over again. If you didn't get it, you can come back and watch it again. Wonderful thing about the internet, we're online in perpetuity. So, thank you for being with us here today on This Week in Careers. I'm Lisa Johnson Mandel, trying to save America one job at a time.